Good morning, afternoon. I'm not going to say evening yet because if it's evening, it'll be too late. Welcome to the best DFS show that just happens to start at 8 Eastern Standard Time. We're coming at you an hour earlier today. My name is Rob Diamond on Twitter, Sir Robert 6 on all the main sites and message boards. Welcome to the RotoPros presentation of the Champions League breakdown for this afternoon, Slate Tuesday, October 23rd, 2008. Pull my hood down there. Sorry about that. But yeah, I don't want to waste too much time. We got two big shows coming at you here today. The first is the Champions League. So if you're looking for the NHL, that will be broadcast after the Champions League. But yeah, my plan is now to start time stamping. So if you check the basic info below the screen here, it should have every single game stamped. So if you're looking to review something or you're looking to skip my talks generally and just go right into the game, you can just jump right in. So I'm not offended. That's why it's there. So let's just jump right in here today. We'll start right with the screen share. I'm really looking forward to this Champions League slate. I think it's going to be absolutely magnificent because Ronaldo is playing in a game that he's probably not going to do as well as people hope. And for every reason in the world, he should be massively owned. So I'm really looking forward to this. I'm actually really excited. Excuse me. But yeah, let's break this. Let's get right into this right away. So yeah, the first game on tap is Olympique Lyon taking on TSG Eindhoven. Now, first, actually, let's check the schedule for today. No, that's not what I want. I want the table. There we go. Okay, so basically today we're dealing with Group E and down, or I should say mainly there are two games that aren't on the main slate, but for the most part, Ajax will be playing Benfica here, and Bayern is taking on AEK, which should be on the early slate. If you're playing the early slate, there's absolutely just fill your card with Bayern. It really doesn't matter from that point on. Like it should be a pretty dominant performance by every means, and it wouldn't surprise me if they rest a lot of their starters, giving you an opportunity at lots of different value. But yeah, in terms of Ajax and Benfica, Ajax need to win this in order to stay up on Benfica. This is kind of this part of the schedule right now where we're 3 weeks in, and the point is that it's hitting a point in the schedule where people can actually, I shouldn't say people, excuse me, teams can define their future steps, their progressions to the next group stage. So I'm really looking forward to some performances this late. Again, teams need to win. This isn't the situation where teams can just draw or play out for a different result. This is the point where a lot of teams can make their statement to the next round. If Ajax beat Benfica, basically they are one win shy of qualifying for the next round, and there's still 3 more games to go. All they need to do is beat Benfica again during either the reverse fixture or have Benfica lose and Ajax win again, or a draw, either or, and Ajax are through. Because assumedly, of course, we're expecting Bayern to beat AEK, and so both Ajax and Bayern will be ahead of Benfica and AEK by such a substantial margin that they won't be able to be caught. And it'll come down to who will go through first and who will go through in the second. And considering they drew each other, it's still totally up in the air between those two. We're going to have Lyon and Hoffenheim playing, and ManCity traveling to Shaktar. Now, I'll talk more about this when we get to the actual game, but this group is lit this afternoon. I'm very excited for it. Worst trip in the entire world, ManCity to Shaktar. Literally, you cannot get in Champions League. You cannot get any worse than ManCity to Shaktar. So, yeah, I'll talk about that when we get there. But Lyon will be playing Hoffenheim. CSKA and Roma will be playing each other, excuse me, and Real Madrid and Plezn. So for this group, obviously, if CSKA can find a result, they'll make an incredible statement as to making the step to the next round, excuse me, where both Roma need to beat CSKA and Real Madrid need to beat Plezn. And I know that's saying a lot, but what people may not know actually is that Real Madrid and Barcelona play this upcoming weekend. So newsflash, we're going to get some crazy value here today for Real Madrid. So I'm really looking forward to this. They still need to win this game, but it shouldn't be a problem. We're going to get some crazy options. So CSKA and Roma is going to be, in all honesty, a mind-blowing game for DFS because Roma absolutely need to push and win big. So we'll get there. But finally, the big one is Juventus and ManUtd playing, and then Valencia and Young Boys play in the early slate too. And if you can find some Valencia, stack in there with, excuse me, with Byron. But yeah, Young Boys definitely over any AEK players. But yeah, that's just my early takes. But yeah, I'll get to this game later. This should be the ultimate cancel out game. It doesn't matter that, it doesn't mean there won't be floors, but in terms of ceilings, I really don't see any massive ceilings coming from this game. That's just I'll explain as we get there further. But yeah, that is the schedule for today. It gives you an idea of the teams that really need to win. Particularly Ajax are really looking for a result. Lyon are really looking for a result. ManCity, I don't know. They don't really necessarily need to win. They could be satisfied with the draw here, especially if they are seeing on the scoreboard that Lyon are beating Hoffenheim. And the big one, obviously, is going to be Roma. It's going to be the team to target this slate. So, yeah, let's just jump right into this. Lyon at Hoffenheim. Right away, immediately in this the slate, we are presented with the absolute two best value options on the go. And the first one is Memphis Depay at 7.8K on DraftKings. Now, you'll notice Fecker is out. And basically what that really means is that with Fecker out, Depay will not only move into a more central midfielder role, he'll become the sole, the sole vocal point for the offense. And not only that too, but that's way too cheap. All the set pieces, he should have one of the safest routes to double digits in the entire slate, and we're getting him at a sub 8K salary. He's definitely a 9K salary, like especially against Hoffenheim. So incredible price here. You're going to have to put Depay into your cash cards, your large exposure, your GPP. Lyon are a team to target here in general. If they win this game, they will be making, like I said, a major step forward. So they're looking for a result. And across the board, they have some really interesting options. And I'll start talking about Lyon first because, yeah, Moussa Dembele is one of the best young forwards in the entire world right now, and he's playing lots of minutes. 6.4K is just too cheap. He's on loan from Celtic. Yeah, incredible player, really special player, like legitimately wonder kid status. I don't know what more to say here. His minutes aren't incredible, but yeah, he is absolutely 100% worth every penny at 6.4K. Is it something I would put into cash? Potentially. I'm not psyched about his minutes, and he doesn't do a lot of necessarily crossing or floor outside of shots. Can he take shots? Absolutely, but that may not be the option to chase when he's playing 60 to 70 minutes potentially. We just don't know because he's not a 90-minute player consistently. But on the other hand, we know Memphis is going to be on the field for all 90 minutes here. That don't read too deeply into that. Without Fecker in the lineup, it's unquestionable what's going to happen. Now, a lot can be said that Dembele and Traore is another player that is going to see 90 minutes. So I should say I'm predicting to see 90 minutes. And Terrier in the midfield, but excuse me, I'll get there in a minute. Dembele is someone that you can use in GPPs. Probably going to be one of my favorite GPP forwards at only 6.4K. He pairs perfectly with the big salaries in GPP, allowing you to do some crazy things. And on top of that, too, you can put in Traore too as a midfield forward, which is incredibly crucial. If you're not able to spend up at Depay, I would first of all suggest breaking down your card and starting over and leading with Depay. But secondly, if you just can't do it and you're totally set on you have this crazy card and you have 5.5K, Traore is more than acceptable. He hasn't come off the field in a long time. Lyon are really hurt, really hurt. So, like I was just about to say there earlier, a lot can be said about the injuries on Lyon across the board. So, Depay is probably going to play 90 minutes now that Fekir's out, and Dembele is probably playing 90 minutes too. And Traore is a consistent 90-minute player, so there's no reason to think he can't do it from 5.5K. So yeah, that's just my touch on those three. I really like the midfield too. Terrier may be seeing minutes, so he's someone to consider at 5.2 just for a random GPP swing, because nobody's going to be on him considering he hasn't played in the previous Champions League games. So I have no issue with that. I really like Lyon across the board, but Mendy isn't really that interesting to me because he isn't an offensively minded wing back, excuse me. And you can see Dubois, Tet, and Raphael are all the 3 first choice right and left backs. Yeah, they're not necessarily down to strings though. That's the thing, is that Lyon's an okay team, but he definitely, along with the pay in either format, whichever you want to roll with. What I've been reading and understanding is that Marcal is literally the only option they have at left back right now, and he's not actually that bad. You can read what he managed over the weekend, and he's actually done pretty well, and he looks good. So I don't mind it. We'll get to it on FanDuel, especially on FanDuel. It's almost a must play. This is more of like, there's a few places in here, Champions League this week, where it's a wait and see on who's starting, especially with the Real Madrid and the Roma, and with the Lyon, because they are so injured. I don't expect them to start pulling random guys out of the woodwork that have been on the injured reserve list of soccer, I guess you could call it. These guys are definitely out. So Marcal should be starting. I don't mind building cards with him at 3.9 because there are some other defenders that are underpriced that you can pivot in at 3.9 too. So a center back, so which you're taking more risks with. But like I said, Depay is just what you have to focus on here. I don't mind Lopez for like a GPP swing. Hoffenheim don't have an issue scoring. They just have a lot of issues keeping the ball out of the net, which makes me like to pay even more. I think Lopez is worth the win. If you're, again, stuck on keeper especially, I think you can drop down to Lopez safely in cash because, like I said, I think he is worth the win. I don't see Lyon dropping this game to Hoffenheim. So I do like Lopez from 4.6. I don't really like the clean sheet. But even this right here in cash, Marcal and Lopez is a really excellent stack because if they happen to land onto a CS bonus, you're absolutely flying from their salaries, especially if a clean sheet win for Lopez included with a clean sheet on Marcal at 90 minutes because of all the injuries. Yeah, you're looking at a really decent upside for absolutely no cost because I'll touch on Hoffenheim now. They've been absolutely brutal this season domestically. They did pull off a half-decent result against ManCity, and they kept it close against Shaktar. But the fact is that they're just not a championship caliber team. They are obviously a decent enough team, but Bittencourt's supposed to be out too. Kramaric is like their last man standing here at this point. And like in GPP, sure, 6.8K isn't that much to spend on a forward. But my big concern is that yeah, I don't know. I don't know about his minutes. Like, he could end up coming off at 75 minutes because they have domestic concerns as well. A lot of these teams right now, we're getting into the part of the season where they're about to walk into a really heavy set of fixtures or just coming off a heavy set of fixtures. For example, tomorrow we'll be talking about Liverpool, who have been playing like garbage lately, and that's because they played 8 straight games against 8 of the best teams across the entire world, literally 8 straight games, and then had to drop down and play teams that are way below the standard, and they're expected to be able to have that same emotional, like everyone's human, everyone's just human. And there's a difference between playing PSG and then Chelsea and then Man City and then Chelsea and then whoever they played. Probably, I can't remember who it was. They still are obviously doing fine, but they're not exceeding or reaching their salary expectations by any means. And that's what I meant by garbage. I shouldn't use terms like that. I'm sorry. It's just in terms of their salary. They just haven't been getting it done. But yeah, in terms of someone like Kramaric, I don't mind it for GPP because he does have enough upside, considering how few limited options they're going to have going forward. But yeah, that's the big issue with Hoffenheim. It isn't that they're a bad team. It's just that they're in really poor form right now. They haven't been winning games, especially at home. They've only won like one in their last 7 games. Yeah, Lyon's on absolute. Compare that to Lyon, who's on absolute fire right now. And have completely taken everyone by storm in Champions League. So and we're getting them at massive value. This isn't a case where we have to take a concern into this because they're so injured. We're just getting excellent value in a team that's playing excellent. So yeah, 3-1 Lyon. Depay may not have a hat trick, but he's definitely going to be involved in all 3 goals. I don't see Lyon not scoring at least 2 goals this game, and I'd be surprised if Hoffenheim score more than 1, but I'd be equally surprised if they didn't score. But yeah, 3-1 Lyon. And we can take a really quick look at how they set up over on FanDuel, because there are a couple of, again, where are we here? So Lopez lines up as like a mid-range salary keeper compared to everyone else. You can see he fits in a little bit higher, obviously, but yeah, this is the main one. Literally, this is the thing. If he ends up playing Marcal, he's literally the cheapest playable player on the slate, basically. And if Lyon happen to stumble on, like if he falls on an assist, you're absolutely set. And he has a fairly respectable floor of peripheral defensive stats. So yeah, 4K is absolutely nothing on this site. Like absolutely bare bones. Literally now you can do anything you want across the board, basically. And again, Depay is a little bit more pricey on FanDuel, especially when you're attempting to pair him with more legitimate forwards. But like I said, Dembele and Traoré are way too cheap down at 8.5K. And I know that doesn't seem like a huge drop down, but whenever you compare the entire slate, you can see all the names that fall in between them. Like Tadic's absolutely viable. Martial, I don't think will be playing. I think he's injured. Hunlier is definitely viable. Dembele, we touched on him already. So that's how he falls in. But then you can see who they're all surrounded by. Even Salvio has some relevance. If Kluivert happens to start, or El Shaarawy, both of them are viable. Sefrick scored last slate. I don't think he'll see. The thing with Sefrick is he never gets more than the value of a goal or the production of a goal in points. So I'm not really into him. But yeah, in terms of from this game, you're probably, again, best bet is to go to Depay. He has the goal upside, he has the assist upside, and he has the chance creation upside. And he isn't the most expensive forward on the slate. Sazali has been playing as basically the only scoring option for Hoffenheim outside of Kramaric. And it's not that I don't like him. It's just that I'm far more to side with someone like Lyon in this situation. As you can see, he's playing Manson, still not doing anything. He has yeah. It's tough. He's not a bad player, so it's tough to talk him down. I don't like that both of them are only forwards, despite being cheap. I would rather go with Kramnik. He has an actual floor, where Sazali has just like a random game theory going for him. But yeah, that's basically my take on that game. Like I said, 3-1 Lyon. Depay and Marcal, and if you want Lopez, but there's definitely better keeper options. Second game, Benfica at Ajax. This game is going to be really interesting as well. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think there's going to be tons of value to be had. Both teams should find the net, and I think both keepers or I should say, or Onana is slightly overpriced here. I also think Vlach is also slightly overpriced at 4.3. I think he would be better off at 4K or below, because I think Ajax have all the attacking prowess in the world, especially at home. Across the board, you can't really go wrong with too many options here. Of the entire slate, excuse me, the vast majority of the defensive goals that have happened have come from the wingbacks of Benfica and Ajax. Telefico had 2 goals in the game. Mazraoui had a goal. Grimaldo had a goal. So, like, Delight, if you haven't heard me talk about Matthias Delight yet, or you haven't heard anyone speak about him yet, this is if the future potential of Messi or Ronaldo was in a defensive player, it would be Matthias Delight. He's going to be a handful better than Mats Hummels. Incredible wonder kid, probably the best wonder kid in the entire world. So expect to see him playing on Liverpool or Chelsea or Man City or Barcelona or Real Madrid in the very, very, very near future. Maybe even Bayern Munich if he chooses to stay in that part of the world. But like, he's not going to be on Ajax for much longer, unless Ajax are somehow transforming away from their youth system, which they've always produced. So yeah, Daily Blind's in there too. Obviously, anyone who knows Man United knows about him. But yeah, in terms of Ajax, there's another lock for you in this game, and it's a Ziyech from 8.4K. This guy should be 10.5K. Yeah, like 8.4K is way too cheap. He leads the outside of Ronaldo. He leads the Champions League in shots. He's not a forward. He's quite literally a midfielder. So he takes all the set pieces for Ajax. He just hasn't scored yet. And let me put it this way. If Ziyech is pulling off 13 and 17 without goals or assists, with an assist, he's at 19.5 finishing the game, maybe a straight 20, depending how he got the assist in. With a goal, he's raw pointing the slate, especially this slate. And like, again, against AEK, like he did this against Bayern Munich without a goal or an assist. Like, legit. Hakim Ziyech, absolutely get him into both formats this slate. Again, like these 3 right here, if you lock them into every single card you build, cash or GPP, and you end up with, like, literally, let's say I would literally put these 3 in 8 out of my 10 cards. If I was building 10 cards, I would build around this core. And I think it's extra interesting that we get them both in these first 2 games, where the most fan-friendly games all happened later in the slate, like when people are drawing across this. So yeah, absolutely get these 3 into your cards. Tadic is more of a GPP play. Ziyech dominates the set pieces. Tadic is more of an open play kind of player. If you're going to play him, I would definitely suggest playing him on DraftKings, because he'll get more love for the crosses than just looking for chance creations. But Pizzi's also acceptable. I'm not crazy in terms of his minutes. It's a little bit too consistent in the wrong way for me, but he does handle exclusive set pieces for Benfica. So in the case that you're looking for someone who a little bit of GPP upside, but like you're kind of hoping for minutes, Pizzi's an answer. Salvio and Servi are both like, they're serviceable. They're not really where I'm looking. The real problem with Benfica is always going to be their minutes. All of their role players play horrible minutes. Servi was going to be one of my locks last slate against AEK, and he didn't even start and only saw 6 minutes. So like, yeah, they're very un-DFS friendly in terms of how they go about their business. And like I said, Seferovic may score a goal, and yeah, there you go. Like, he's not scoring production-wise more fantasy points than what a goal is worth, and that's nothing new. Like, that's his ceiling. Like, so like with a goal, like onto that is basically a ceiling 14, and yeah, 5.4 is fine, 14 is okay, but like chasing a goal, there's just way better options like Huntelaar, for example. If Huntelaar gets to start, he could be absolute. I have no issue with him. But yeah, it's tough to know this time of year, like I say, who they're going to start up front and how they're going to go about it. Jonas is the team captain of Benfica, hasn't played in Champions League yet this season, but handles all the set pieces, including penalty shots. So, like, I was kind of waiting for him to get a chance in the first couple of games, especially against AEK. I doubt it's going to come now. So, yeah, I'm definitely more on the Ajax side of things for this game. And in terms of FanDuel, let's bring that up. Right there, goalkeeper. See, now this is a little bit different situation on FanDuel, and obviously they're expecting goals in both sides of this game as well. Like I said earlier, though, the issue with Benfica is that they don't have solid minutes, and the people who do have solid minutes don't make the most of them. So you're kind of forced into, excuse me, a situation where you don't want to take a 62-minute PZ in cash, but you could probably take that in GPP and hope for an assist because there's supposed to be goals in this game. Let's put it that way. So yeah, 4.5. If you want to roll with that in GPP, it is acceptable for Onana. It is arguably too cheap. But yeah, in terms of Benfica, Valanciunas should be conceding here more than once, so I'm not really digging him in the first place. But both these salaries are probably too cheap. Benfica has been absolutely horrible on the road in Champions League, and Ajax been excellent at home. But the fact is, like I said, both teams know how to score the goals. All the defenders are pretty well just too expensive for me, basically, until you get down to the blind and delight. And by that time, there really isn't much more viable options left. So I don't even think those two are very good from their salaries. So yeah, I'm basically going to fade this in FanDuel and hope that there isn't a lot of chance creation come from it, but there probably will be, knowing my luck. So yeah, like I talked about, there's lots of goals that come from there. I'm not comfortable with those salaries. But yeah, again, Ziyech, like I said, you have to get him into your cards. It doesn't matter what format, which site, as long as he avoids a card, which he should, you're going to be flying. And he's a 10K guy on this site as well. Getting him at 8.5 is a massive discount. So yeah, I have absolutely no problem with Ziyech. But in terms of forward, there isn't really a lot I'm looking for here. Even Tadic, 9K, I would rather go with the pay 9 times out of 10 than Tadic. And that isn't saying Tadic can't score or won't do well. I'm sure he'll probably get a goal. I just think Depay has far more upside and far more exclusive necessity from his team, where Tadic there's a few different guys in Ajax that can go off. If Lyon are doing anything, it's all going to be through Depay. But yeah, that isn't the worst GPP stack to start off with. You're kind of hamstringing yourself in terms of forward, and you're not really, excuse me, saving money. But at the same time, it's going to be really low owned. There's no question about that. So I have no issue with starting off a stack like that. But in terms of your cash core or your GPP core, Depay and Ziyech should lead you off every single time, and get Marcal in there where you can for the savings. But yeah, in terms of Benfica Ajax, I'm feeling an Ajax 3-2 win. I would like to say something more like 2-0 or 3-1 or something like that. But I really think Benfica are going to score one early and late, and Ajax will fill in the middle with 3. It, yeah, it's hard to say. But yeah, I definitely like the Ajax win. That's for sure. It's hard to say what the final score will be. It's hard to say how Ajax will do defensively. That's really the question of this game. It isn't so much their offense. You know, Ziyech is still going to put in 6 to 10 crosses. You know, Tadic's still going to do his thing. The question now is whether they're going to keep the ball out of the net. And in doing so, will that give any of these crazy defender salaries justifiable production especially for a clean sheet? Like, basically, for 5.3, you really do need a clean sheet. And like, these crosses are fine. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate them. It's just like Ziyech is such more of a vocal point that it's kind of pointless to not just stick with him and go cheaper everywhere else on in terms of comparing to their team. So yeah, 3-2 Ajax. Excuse me. Next game, ManCity at Shaktar. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Shaktar Donetsk. By the way, DK's got a sick rewards thing going right now. All you have to do is click on this page every single day, and you get Unreal rewards. So yeah, just go to this page, just the DraftKings.com daily rewards, and you get it. So yeah, wanted to pass that on quickly. So Donetsk, you'll see, is basically on the far side of Ukraine. That's like Khabib land for any Conor Khabib fans. This is like Khabib's just next door down down in the mountains. But yeah, to give you an idea, there's Manchester, and there's Ukraine. Now, not to mention, basically everything east of Kiev has been a war zone for basically most of a decade now. So yeah, getting to Donetsk is one of the most complicated processes in terms of flying through safe zones, and even the safe zones that they're flying through aren't always that guaranteed. It's not enjoyable. It's really far. And in terms of Champions League, unless you're an Irish team or maybe from Glasgow, you could say maybe they would have a further trip. There isn't very many other teams that have to travel as far as Manchester. Madrid would have a pretty brutal trip as well. They may even be able to come up underneath. I don't know. But yeah, long story short, ManCity are an excellent world-class team. If you haven't known this by now, you're either brand new to soccer or you've been completely missing the beat 100%. So basically, anyone who plays EPL on the weekends, especially last weekend, and saw ManCity win 5-0, are immediately drawn to the concept that, oh, it's ManCity, they're going to score 5 goals. Now, this would be the case, first of all, if it was at home, second of all, against any other team other than Shakhtar, and third of all, not in the Champions League. ManCity just aren't the same team in the Champions League. They've basically conceded in every game for 15 straight games in the Champions League, which makes Ederson and the lack of clean sheet bonus for the defensive options absolutely terrifying. Mendy's awesome. Don't get me wrong. 6.3K from a guy that's basically not getting a clean sheet bonus is a huge concern. That's really hard to pay for. Really hard. Now, if you're like, oh, but I really want to chase that clean sheet bonus, the chase on someone like Laporte at 3.7, who's literally played every minute all season, basically. Like, if you want a city guy, like I was saying earlier, if you're on Markel and you're like, oh no, he didn't end up playing and I need a pivot quick, uh, drop to Laporte and at the worst case scenario, chase your clean sheet and hope he doesn't take a card. Like, it's not the worst. I wouldn't do it in cash, that's for sure. But in GPP, like, yeah, I have no issue with that. But yeah, Mendy's a little bit steep for me this slate. I think there's a lot of other places that you can spend up other than the ownership that's going to be on Man City. De Bruyne's either going to start and go to the bench or start from the bench and come on. And that means he's going to be taking someone off, which means someone who is going to be losing minutes. If Gundogan isn't playing, it's going to be either David Silva or Bernardo Silva. And so both of them are pretty well toast. Sterling didn't play on the weekend. So my first instinct was lock Sterling in at 8.1K. That's not a problem. Like, he is going to do well. He's of all the Man City players, he's going to have 90 minutes. I'm not necessarily assuming that Mahrez will, considering he just played 90 minutes on the weekend, or Sane, who just played 90 minutes on the weekend, who's probably going to come off for De Bruyne or vice versa. So yeah, I think there's a lot to think about when playing Man City this slate, especially again Aguero, who just played 90 minutes, or excuse me, Aguero, who played 65 minutes over the weekend, and at the same time Jesus, who played 35. So like, yeah, it's not easy to take on these minutes, especially when they're traveling to Shakhtar, especially when you know all this ownership's coming, and there's justification to go otherwise. Like, how many people, just like on a base level, think about how many people are going to be trying to own Man City and Ronaldo in the same card, and both teams will be lucky, like Juventus and Man City will be lucky to combine for 4 or 5 goals together for all that salary. And Roma should score 5 by themselves for literally the same salary. We'll get there in a second. But yeah, in terms of Man City, like, if you can wade through the minutes, Sterling's really the only viable option to me. At 8.1K is a little steep, honestly. Not that he's not worth 8.1K, but that once you start building, that's really hard to start getting some other names at only 5.4K, and you haven't even got your keeper in yet. So do I think Sterling's great? Yes, but I think you're going to have to take him or Ziyech, and Ziyech like 15 out of 10 times. Watch Sterling get a hat trick now or whatever. You know how it is. But like, I'm serious. Ziyech's just the far better viable play. Like, Sterling shouldn't even take set pieces, and Ziyech should have 3 times the floor from set pieces. So yeah, Sterling's good. Not my guy. Shakhtar, on the other hand, it's tough, right? Because like, they're so cheap, they're at home, they've been putting up numbers and results, so there's a reasons not to trust them. Absolutely, it's Man City. Ismaili isn't sustainable. Like, his numbers aren't sustainable. I've been playing Ismaili for years, and like, he doesn't even take corners anymore. So yeah, really it was great to see him play so well, but just not sustainable output. And what I have a feeling is that he's still going to draw a fair amount of ownership incorrectly. He's going to finish with like 4.5 fantasy points. Like, yeah, like, he don't get me wrong, against most other teams you can think about it, if you're chasing a clean sheet, the clean sheet just doesn't come in this slate. But yeah, with Tiezo out, Marlowe should take over a massive amount of responsibility. But the player that I'm really looking at, and I'm really excited to try in some GPPs this slate, is Alan Patrick at only 3.1K. With Tiezo out, Alan Patrick will step up into the midfield and play a way more offensive role than he usually plays. And while I'm not really chasing much in cash, you can probably get away with it in cash since they're at home. And he should get more minutes now that Tiezo is out. That's my hope. I still can't guarantee the minutes. 3.1K, though, is not a lot to ask. If you can get past 6 to 8 fantasy points from that, you're flying with the rest of your card. It isn't my favorite value play in the entire slate. Marcal is definitely far more favorable. But in terms of Alan Patrick, he should take over a much more offensive responsibility. Egregiously underpriced is a way I would describe him in GPPs, because Man City, like I said, should be conceding, and it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to see Alan Patrick on either side, the goal or the assist. So yeah, my 2-1 Man City. It won't be necessarily close. Man City will definitely have the upper hand the entire game. I don't see that's the thing is unless they kind of fall onto this and Shakhtar completely fall apart, I don't see Man City exploding for any kind of goal outage. They're literally traveling to the other side of the continent. I don't I in every other team ever, including Man City last year. Man City's first loss last year came on this exact game at this exact time on a trip to Shakhtar in the Champions League, where they lost 2-1 to Shakhtar at Shakhtar. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you here. Don't go chasing waterfalls. That's all I'm really going to say. 2-1 Man City. They're too expensive for the lack of minutes and ceilings they will provide. Next game. Oh, no. Let's check it on FanDuel. Sorry. My bad. Not next game. Cancel that. Where are we? See, way too expensive. I'm not going to rant about it now. I had a huge rant on Twitter and some message boards about Aguero this weekend and how he was 60 to 65% owned in cash and was guaranteed not to play a full game. Whatever. You guys can do that literally every game all season. I won't, and I'll do something else. And at the end of the season, I'm very confident I will have won more than 50% of the time just by default in that suboptimal decision. Keep doing it if you have to. I don't see him starting the slate anyways. It's probably going to be Gabriel Jesus. But yeah, like I said, they're probably coming off for each other. The goal upside, multiple goals upside isn't there. If you're super desperate to play Man City, play Raheem Sterling. But again, if you're going to play him at that salary, you're better off just going back to DraftKings and playing him over there, because you're completely hamstringing yourself from here. You can't even afford a real forward and a real goaltender, let alone another real midfielder, and you could probably half-hinge a defender. But yeah, in terms of this one, it's basically the exact same situation. I think Alan Patrick gives you a little bit more idea as to why I'm a little bit excited to play him on DraftKings. This may not be what's the word I'm trying to think of? Descriptive or definitive of what FanDuel thinks he's going to do, but I definitely think this is a definitive of what he does already before he gets that offensive responsibility, which has a very good defensive floor and still makes chance creations. Because remember, FanDuel pays for chance creations, not crosses. And on DraftKings, he doesn't take crosses, period. So DraftKings isn't going to price him properly anyways. But now that he's going to be playing more offensively, that 3.1K really stands out. But yeah, him and McCollum should be the two attacking midfielders. Honestly, if you're going to go anywhere, you may as well go Moraes and GPP. I wouldn't really do it in cash. Excuse me. I don't really think there's any kind of cash upside there, despite I think the certainty that is Man City conceding this game. But yeah, the same idea over here too with Laporte. He's way too cheap on FanDuel. In fact, if you really feel confident that Man City are going to do so well, he's the borderline lock on FanDuel because he still gets a ton of chance creations. He makes a ton of passes and has an incredible floor. And the only Man City center back who's consistently played 90 minutes throughout the entire season. So yeah, 5K is too cheap if you're convinced Man City is going to do well. If you're not convinced, you don't have to play him. I still think you can, even if they don't do very well. 5K isn't asking very much. You're basically just trying to avoid a card. That's really your main fear. If you can avoid a card, you're probably going to do well because Laporte's going to be involved. He's not going to be invisible for the entire game. So yeah. Yeah, 2-1 Man City. I'll stick to that. I don't think I really have to change that. But at the same time, I don't really feel like there's a lot of players in this game that you have to play. So yeah, that's my Man City take. Sorry if you disagree. I respect. I respectfully respectfully disagree with what you're at. But I've seen this enough times now that teams that go to Shakhtar just don't swing for the fences because they can't, because they left a lot at home. Now we can go to the next game, the biggest game of the slate, CSKA traveling to Roma. So there's a couple reasons this is the biggest game of the slate. First of all, both teams need to win, so you know both teams are going to be going for it. Second of all, Rome is not only one of the better teams in Europe, but CSK is one of the least better teams in Europe. My English is brutal today, sorry. And Roma should absolutely smash them. Now, teams traveling to Russia is really hard. Russia traveling to teams is really hard for Russia. So, yeah, I don't see CSKA really showing up. They're going to be without Ankiev, excuse me, and they're going to be without a few guys. I think it's Manuel Fernandez who's going to be out. One of their main attacking guys is going to be out here. I know that. Let's see here. Where is he? Dagazev, one of their main midfielders, is only going to play 60 minutes. The coach has been talking about all week how he can't play 90 minutes yet, but he is going to play. Chris Tam may actually start instead of De Rossi, and if that's the case, I actually don't mind him for either format. He's way cheap. He has an excellent defensive floor, and he should play 90 minutes. Now, De Rossi is half healthy. He is basically the Italian captain. But the thing is really strange. I've honestly never heard of this before. Well, I shouldn't say I've never heard of this, but like I've never experienced this happening on a team, let alone twice. Him and Kolarov broke their pinky toes on their non-kicking foots. So like, yeah, very strange to have both happen to them. But Kolarov's supposed to be coming back. De Rossi isn't quite there yet, but it's uncertain. He's more uncertain. He is in the squad, but yeah, if he doesn't start, I don't mind Kristan. It's tough because Kristan could come off. The thing is that if Roma starts winning, they may not risk De Rossi until like the very end of the game. But yeah, if Kolarov doesn't start, Luca Pellegrini will be starting in his place. Now, on DraftKings, that isn't really a big deal to me at all. I'm not really too concerned about it. But when we get to FanDuel, you'll see why I'm pretty excited about if Kolarov doesn't actually start. If he does start, I'm not going to play him in cash this late, and I think that's a huge risk and probably a huge leak by me. But I'm just not sure if he's going to play 90 minutes. I really don't know, and I really need that from 6.1K. So yeah, you can in GPP all day, Kolarov in GPP. You can totally risk him not playing 90 minutes in GPP. It's not the end of the world if he still gets 8 or 9. But that salary would, if he doesn't hit double digits in cash, you're really hurting. Because it cuts your leg off completely in terms of affording any kind of a real forward and a real goaltender. So yeah, in terms of the midfield, I don't mind under for GPP. I think Roma makes really excellent stacking options. Florenzi isn't bad either. 5.7K is a little bit of a heavy ask for me. He should be getting forward enough in this game though that like I honestly don't mind it. Like Robin Olsen for 5.7K, you can absolutely rock this in cash. You can rock this in GPP. Probably the safest keeper of the slate, considering Ederson, and we'll get to Real Madrid in a bit. But considering those two aren't really as reliable, Robin Olsen's one of the best keepers in the world. He's like 6'8", the Swedish national keeper. Like, yeah, excellent goalkeeper. But yeah, I have no issue with that. And like it, yeah, if you want to go collar off in cash, it's obviously optimal. Like it's obviously a play. I'm not saying don't do that. It's just like I said, salary wise, it really hurts from here on out. And yeah, I don't know if I would go Pellegrini. It would probably be where I'd go just for massive savings and chasing that clean sheet, which is really viable this slate with Roma. I think one of the safest and more affordable clean sheets, to be honest, outside of Kolarov, obviously. But yeah, like really though, the big play from this entire slate. And not only this game is easily Ed Dzeko. It's tough. I'm not sure where this is going to go, being 100% honest. For anyone who's not familiar with him, he is a living legend. He was the Man City forward with Aguero back in the day when they had like Mario Balotelli and they won the EPL in the last minute. I think it was over Reading or something like that. And Man United were celebrating and then slowly realized that they lost. And we got that Phil Jones meme that was friggin' epic for years. And so, yeah, I have no problem with Dzeko in cash or GPP. The issue with cash is obviously he doesn't really do a lot of things outside of shoot the ball, which he still does. That was against Plezn, so like he literally was just doing whatever he wanted. Like legitimately, they were Florenzi and Kolarov were just crossing the ball, and he was like a man among children, just pushing people off his shoulder and easily putting it in the net. Do I think it'll be that easy against CSKA? No, I don't see 3 goals. Do I still see multiple goal upside? Absolutely, 100%. Outside of Depay, easily the second highest multiple goal upside of this slate, without question, bar none. Easily. And that's including Raheem Sterling at 90 minutes. Can Raheem Sterling do that? Yes. Like I said, though, Man City, I'm only expecting him to score 2 or 3 goals, and he'll have to score at least 2 of those 3 goals to keep up what Roma will be doing in terms of floor production and what I'm hoping will be ceiling. So yeah, I have no issue with Roma, especially in GPP. If you want to do some stacking like that, gets a little bit expensive, obviously. There, you may have to work some things around with like Robin Olsen, drop him down to Lopez or something, the Olympic goaltender. But yeah. Roma 4-1, Roma 4-0. I hate saying Moscow teams won't score because they are more than capable. They're always capable to get a goal. And like they have one of the hotter players in the Champions League right now in Vlasic. What I'm hoping happens, I've been kind of waiting for this to happen. Vlasic actually doesn't take the set pieces. He has been, but he doesn't. It's actually Bristovic who takes the set pieces at 3K. Now, obviously, you'll see Bristovic hasn't played yet, and I've been waiting each slate. Instead, Vlasic ends up playing and taking a bazillion crosses and doing this and that, whatever else. Taking penalty shots, all sorts of crazy stuff, playing 90 minutes. This is another guy that's just not sustainable. These scores are not sustainable. Plain and simple. Is he a good player? Yes, obviously, and he's in a great role. His salary's cheap, and it's like I don't know if it's cash or GPP. It's obviously something. Like Vlasic's obviously something. I would like to say if you're not playing a lot of Roma, and particularly if you're not playing Olsen, you could probably get away with Vlasic and cash. I think a lot of people are going to be doing it, and my concern is obviously missing out because it's very like old news by now that he's doing everything for CSKA, and like Chavlov's literally scored half of their goals this season, so. And he's always been too cheap, and he continues to be like he literally scores goals, and his salary just keeps dropping and dropping. Now, obviously, against Roma is a pretty good reason to drop your salary, but yeah, it's really hard for me to say don't do this in GPP. It's like, yeah, putting Chavlov and Vlasic in a stack together. Like, if that hits, you're basically able to do whatever you want from this point because you can't find a keeper that expensive, especially if you're not taking Olsen. So, like, yeah, we haven't got to my favorite keeper option yet. But in terms of, or maybe we did. No, yeah, we didn't. It's going to be Navas, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough. I, I don't want. It's obviously not cash. You can't take that sack in cash. But I really can't talk you off taking Vlasic and GPP if you're not taking any Roma. It's a little bit too game stacky to take him and Dzeko together. I'm not really fond of that because ideally what we want is Dzeko to dominate the game and Roma win like 3-4-0, and Vlasic get shut out and come off at 56 minutes. At 56 minutes with all his crazy ownership, because like I said, it's old news. So he's this good, but he shouldn't be this good. So I'm just kind of waiting for the moment he isn't this good anymore. He'll be this highly owned, and the slate kind of lines up like that. And nothing more to say than like I don't think Brisovic will play, but I think Roma could absolutely dominate and crush them and like ruin them. CSK isn't a very good. I don't want to say good team. That's unfair. They just beat Real Madrid. Away from home, they're not an efficient squad. So Roma should be able to handle them without too many issues. But very quickly, we'll jump over to FanDuel here because there is something to look at for sure, especially there we go. So Dzeko being 11.5 does hurt a little bit, but you'll see again like Vlasic's 9.5. He's obviously very high in chance creation, but like that again, 8, that really drives home these salaries in DraftKings that they're too low and they're probably going to score a goal. Like I get they have decent enough floors, but like that's a real ceiling that he's been hitting. So yeah, I expect this line to keep going this slate. Let me put it that way. I don't expect that trend to change, and this. I hope that doesn't keep going. But yeah, you're going to have to get Dzeko in. I think under is really acceptable in GPP over here. Don't confuse Lorenzo Pellegrini with Luca Pellegrini. Like I was saying, if Kolarov doesn't start, Luca will be, and I actually don't mind that from 5.5. I know he won't get the clean sheet bonus, but I'm just looking for chance creation and some salary savings in the midfield, which allows you to really start spending up again. Because honestly, Roma across the board are probably one of the better plays as is. But yeah, you can see, like I was saying, Zagazev isn't playing the 90 minutes, so don't risk him. Don't play him in cash or GPP. He isn't worth the effort. But yeah, you can see how expensive Florenzi is, and that Kolarov's actually cheaper, despite Kolarov taking the majority of the set pieces. So yeah, I don't mind Florenzi and DraftKings. You get the idea why. If Kolarov starts, you're really going to have to play him on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you can kind of get away with it because he's not the most expensive, or excuse me, because he is the most expensive, but you can kind of roll with it in GPP. And FanDuel, 6K is just too cheap when you compare to all the other defenders in the slate. Like, there's no way all these people should be more expensive than Kolarov against CSKA. So yeah, I want to say 5-0 Roma. It's probably going to be 4-1. But 4-1, 3-1, something like that. Roma's going to score more than 2 goals for sure. And I'll be very surprised if excuse me, CSKA scores more than once, but I really wouldn't be that surprised if they score. I still really do like Olsen though, especially over here at only 5K and FanDuel. That's borderline lock. I have a feeling he's only this cheap because these two, Vlasic and Chavlov, are so expensive that they were literally forced to down Olsen's salary. I have no issue with that. I'm not afraid of the other side. I'm way more confident in the Roma defensive efforts, especially Olsen's overall ability. So yeah, I have no problem in cash here with those two. And like I said, if either Kolarov, you can go with that in cash, or you can go with Pellegrini if Kolarov ends up not starting. But yeah, like I said, pump show for Roma, and look at the huge savings we still have left, and we haven't even got to the other two games yet. Moving on, Juventus at Man United. Okay, so Sanchez is out. Trying to think who else is out here. Yeah, Rashford should be playing. I'm not really crazy about him, but that salary is hard to deny. The big thing here with these two teams, I'm not really like honestly, everyone should know everything about these two teams by now. If you want to play Ronaldo in cash, I won't talk you off of it. He's obviously going to be the most owned player of the slate, and yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised at his salary. I'm surprised he's not on the other side of this, closer to 10.5. I think a lot of that has to do with his red card last there were 2 games ago there now, whatever. But the big point here is that basically Juventus and Man United do not play for huge goal games. They play, anyone who's watched Man United this season knows this, and it's been the huge complaint of the masses towards Jose Mourinho is that he doesn't try to win games. He tries to make sure he doesn't lose them. Which is a huge difference. Basically, if you're trying not to lose, you're not attacking. You're not trying to win. You're just making sure you don't lose. And both of these teams do that. Now, Ronaldo's kind of a little bit of an exception because he can obviously score. And he can obviously take a gazillion shots a game, and he's obviously on important set pieces and things like this. Pablo Dybala, takes the corners, so it's not like talking you off Ronaldo or anything. It's just like, I don't know. This is going to be a 2-1, 2-2 game max, and see what frustrates me, excuse me, is that this past weekend, um, in terms of Aguero, basically what had to happen for him to succeed at 65 minutes was the entire rest of the slate to crap off and literally nobody else do anything other than Aguero. And that's what happened. And it totally shouldn't have. Like, it absolutely should not. The only other player comparable to Aguero last slate in terms of playable, how great it was Ryan Sessegnon. So, like, the thing is that do you really think this entire slate is going to crap out enough that Man United and Juventus only scoring 2 goals a pair from these salaries will beat everyone else? Will Ronaldo really beat everyone else from 1 goal and 5 or 6 shots? Like, sure he can, but Dzeko is looking at 2 goals. Depay is looking at the exact same floor as Ronaldo. I would say a better ceiling. I don't like saying that, obviously, because it's Cristiano Ronaldo. But, like, honestly, Ronaldo on Juventus has how many international world-class superstars? Even Bernardeschi, you probably haven't heard of him. You're going to hear about him in the next World Cup for Italy. Douglas Costa, Mandzukic is out. So Ronaldo will be playing more centrally, and Dybala will go on the wing. Cuadrado, like Moise Kean is up there in terms of wonder kid status. Pjanic, incredible set pieces, maybe one of the best free kick takers in the entire world. And in the case when Ronaldo doesn't take them, he does. Plezn ManUtd, World Cup winner, like obviously not a viable DFS option, but like Cancelo, Alexandro, he'll be playing on one of the huge teams next year because apparently this weekend Marcelo handed in a transfer request to Real Madrid to be sold to Juventus to play with Ronaldo. So Alexander's kind of been hanging on the doorstep for a few years to teams like Man United and the Cities and the Chelseas and teams like that. So like 4.88K is too cheap for Alexandro. I will say that because at the same time, I'm not even convinced Man United can score a goal this game because, like I just mentioned, neither of these two teams try to win games. They just make sure they don't lose. Ronaldo's kind of a break in that exception that he can single-handedly do his own thing while the rest of the team doesn't. But like, yeah, you're really stuck after that. Like you can't play after this, and you're kind of forced to choose between Dzeko and Ronaldo. Um, like I honestly just want to keep sticking with Dzeko because I know how high owned Ronaldo is going to be, and I know how low scoring this game should be, and I know how high scoring the Roma game should be. It's also frustrating, but at the same time, I'm going to be such a donkey when Ronaldo gets both the goals on 8 shots and 5 crosses and breaks the slate still from 10K and pulls like a Mohamed Salah and gets 35, 40 fantasy points. Like I'll look like the biggest idiot ever. So it's such an internal struggle I'm going with right now. I'm still not entirely sure what I'm going to do, but in terms of I obviously wouldn't talk you off from Ronaldo. If you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it, right? And like, I'm not going to say no, don't do Ronaldo. It's just like I'm not psyched about this game at all. In terms of ceiling, like unless they fall on ceilings, they don't score more than 2 goals, both teams. So like, I'm thinking 2-2 max, and everyone will clap their hands in excitement because it was such an entertaining game and back and forth. But in terms of DFS, like Ajax could score 4 goals. I think Olympiacos will score at least 3 goals for sure. I don't think Man United or Juventus will score 3 goals. And that's almost a for sure. I don't think either of them will score 3 goals. So, like, why not stack Olympiacos at half the salaries? You know what I mean? And it's like, again, like we know these teams, we know what they're going to do. That's way too cheap for someone like Lukaku who can still score a goal at home. Like DraftKings knows this game is going to be low scoring. Like they know that's why these salaries are so cheap. Don't get caught into that. Like I'm sitting here praying that like, oh God, don't let this donkey me and like go to a 4-3-5-4 something stupid historical goal scoring record game or something. But like it really shouldn't. Just look at all the games previous, other than the Young Boys game where Paul Pogba got 2 penalty shots. Like and look throughout the regular season, like they just don't do it. Like Chesney, uh, again, Young Boys giving up 3 goals. Like Chesney, for anyone who doesn't know, we used to be an Arsenal goaltender, and if you're used to be an Arsenal goaltender, you're not really a goaltender. So that's my take on Chesney and why I still think Lukaku can score 1 from that salary. Cash, no. I'm just fading this game, honestly. I think it'll be so outside of Ronaldo. I think it'll be so highly owned that it's almost pointless to bring in that ownership into your cards because it's just weighting yourself down into the pool that will be a really low scoring game between Juventus and Man United. Like, yeah, who knows? But that's really my take in this game. I know they're cheap. If you're going to Ronaldo, but I would still rather Dzeko 6 out of 10 times, and that's at either format just because of his goal upside. But I will say neither team will score more than 2 goals. That's going to be my prediction. I don't know what the score will be. I don't know who will win. I think one team can even get a clean sheet. Probably Juventus. I would see Juventus clean sheeting Man United before Man United would clean sheet Juventus. That's for sure. But yeah, no more than 2 goals. Ronaldo can still do great things though, so be careful. Check it on FanDuel. So we're kind of down to midfielders over here, right, with Dzeko and the defenders. Assuming Kolarov's playing, he's basically a lock over here. But again, you can see like 10-5, 9-5, 9-5, 8-5 is like GPP playable because he does have a little bit of goal love I can give him. But like I wouldn't mind dropping down to Bernardeschi and GPP 2 for 7.5K. I think that's way too cheap. He has a lot of goal upside. But yeah, Ronaldo at 13K, it's like, oh, is that really where we want to go? Like, is that for 13K? Like, I can understand 10K in comparison to the other slate, and 13K compared to the slate's really high. Because now you're really strong. You're kind of basically hoping Kolarov doesn't start, and you're able to drop down to Pellegrini here. I can wake up here and get a hold of myself. There we go. So that opens up a little bit more doors. But yeah, in terms of again, you're choosing between Ronaldo and Dzeko. Taking them both, you can do that, obviously. But I guess you can do that in DraftKings, particularly, and drop Memphis into midfield, but then you're really hamstringing yourself to like 3-4K guys the rest of the way. You'll really need Alan Patrick to have quite the game, and like Laporte to be like super low owned and have a goal off a corner kick or something. Like that's the kind of script you'll be chasing with those two. So like you kind of have to spend down there because Ajax so important. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough, right? Like with the red card skewed his salary on DraftKings, so I'm way more comfortable with him over there. Not really comfortable with him on FanDuel, but I prefer Dzeko. Not necessarily that, but yeah. Yeah, like I said, 2-1 Juventus. That's where I'm going to go. 2-1 Juventus. I settled it. It's done. Final game, Real Madrid is hosting Plezn. Now, this should be the smash spot of the slate, and one of the main reasons for that is because Real Madrid play Barcelona this weekend, so they're not going to be dressing their full throttle squad. I still do expect Navas to get the start, but in the case he doesn't, we are getting massive salary break on that 100 because that's a really big difference when we get later on here. We're looking at some other salaries. But yeah, I have no issue with either of these keepers, especially in cash. The win's pretty solid. I think Plezn can score, so like I'm not crazy about chasing the clean sheet. But yeah, one of my favorite plays actually to build with on Real Madrid is chasing this clean sheet, and it's either Varane or Nacho. Especially with Caraval out, Nacho should be playing. It wouldn't surprise me if Ordizgo or Dizola and Regulon got the starts instead, and I don't even mind them in cash. You can totally play either or. In a GPP, you can stack all three and go heavy on the Real Madrid and a defensive stack, which I think is far more optimal than the offensive stack on Real Madrid this slate. But yeah, I like Nacho because of his salary and the way he scripts into some other builds here, because it still opens up a lot of space. Because in the midfield here, we're absolutely going to need to lock in Toni Kroos again this slate. Now, the hope is that Toni Kroos does not play, is saved for this weekend, and we get Luka Modric at 5.7K on set pieces. Asensio may end up on some free kicks, but in terms of if Toni Kroos doesn't play, just roll with Luka Modric in cash. Don't even worry about it. You can even rock him in GPP from this salary. Absolutely viable. Still leaves us with a ton of money at the end here. So I have absolutely no problem with the look that this gives. Obviously, I'm building around it being Kroos. I'm preparing myself for it to be Toni Kroos. But in the case that it's like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if Real Madrid go discount this weekend and we get Luka Modric at 5.7, and I really like that, especially at home. Now, Gareth Bale's just coming back from injury. They played Barcelona this weekend. He's not playing 90 minutes. It's just not on. And even though it's against Plezn, like you're really pushing for it. compared to guys like Depay and Dzeko and even Traore on Olympiacos, who's half the salary and playing 90 minutes. So, like, yeah, I obviously, again, he's kind of like Ronaldo, but in the same case, like, there's literally no reason to play Gareth Bale instead of Ronaldo. You know Bale's not playing in full game, and you know Ronaldo is, and there's every narrative imaginable to side with Ronaldo having a great game. So, like, yeah, I don't, yeah, like, I really don't know what to say other than that. Like, Gareth Bale isn't a good play. Do I think he still will draw ownership? Sure, they're playing Plezn. Like, how bad can he be against Plezn? But my concern is that, yeah, he could be great for like 16 fantasy points or 18 fantasy points at 10.2K. But then we get Depay, who finishes at 24, and Dzeko at 20, and Ronaldo at 20, and all these other guys finishing at the same as Bale and costing half as less. Like, Ziyech should finish with 20 to 25 fantasy points. Like, there's nothing to suggest he shouldn't, especially if he finds the net. Like, if Kroos doesn't start and Modric's on all the set pieces, there's nothing to suggest he won't reach 20 fantasy points in either site. Like, yeah, so just my take there. I do like Real Madrid a lot. This is the big wait and see, though. This is the game where we have to really wait to see what who ends up starting and then going from there. Because, like, yeah, it really could be any number of guys here. I really don't know what the outcome will be, but, like, yeah, I like Nacho a lot from the salary. If it's going to be anyone, I'd probably just swing with that and try and catch the clean sheet, which I think is a little bit more viable than chasing the salaries at no minutes up front. Yeah, let's check that quickly on FanDuel. Come on, last game, Rob. You can do this. Concentrate. There we go. So again, like 11.5, there's no reason to take Dzeko when you know he's playing 90 minutes and you know Gareth Bale is not. And, like, this is fine. You don't have to believe me that Gareth Bale is not going to play 90 minutes. I'm not offended that you wouldn't believe that statement. Literally just type in Real Madrid versus Plezn Gareth Bale, and it'll come up to all the interviews to talk about his injury and how he's not fit enough to play 90 minutes. So, like, you just have to go with that when it's this salary, and you know he still will be getting ownership. Kremerick, why not? A little bit of GPP love, but yeah. Again, you're going to have to go Kroos or Modric over here. Thankfully, they're the same price in this site, so you don't really have to concern yourself too much on whether or not you need to, like, pivot down on a huge salary and then spend that salary elsewhere. Now, I really happen to like Asensio for GPP. I think that's really sneaky at only 7.5K. If Kroos isn't starting, excuse me, if Kroos doesn't start, which I'm kind of half preparing for, I think, yeah, I would go Asensio GPP and Modric in cash. And I would kind of fade everyone else because Lucas Vasquez has been garbage this season and everyone else is super defensive. And you can take a look over here again. Nacho's a little bit more expensive over here. But yeah, in terms of, see, if we get Reguilon or Odriozola down here, it's like, absolutely that you have to play these two. Not only that, when it gets time for GPP, you're going to have to stack all three. Like, you don't have an option. Like, just obscenely too cheap Real Madrid players going up against one of the worst teams in the Champions League. Like, I don't know what more to say at home. Like, what more can be said than, like, if it's Odriozola and Reguilon as the wingbacks for Real Madrid, the two kids, you got to play one of them in cash. You got to play both of them with their keeper in GPP at least once. Like, it's just a have to. Maybe not on DraftKings. DraftKings is a completely different story. But over here, when we get the clean sheet opportunity, and they're going to be creating a ton of chances in this game. They'll be playing most of the game in the Plezn half of the field. I'll say 3-0 Real Madrid, 3-1 maybe. I do like it all around. I think the clean sheet's viable. On FanDuel, I'd definitely rather stick to Olsen. Way too expensive. Unless, like I said, if Keylor Navas doesn't happen to start, oh my God, like mid salary for a Real Madrid keeper, like Courtois of all Real Madrid keepers. So yeah, like 4K, please, soccer gods, rotation gods, please see us through 90 minutes where we need it, and please put in Courtois at 4K and the two kids at the back so we can just like literally take every 11 to 9K salary player for the rest of the way, and Ronaldo, like not even worry about it. But yeah, that's basically my takes for both sites here and Champions League. I know there are I shouldn't. Yes, I should say there are an early slate and a showdown. If you're going to play either, definitely play the early slate in comparison to the two. I think the early slate obviously has a little bit going for it, but like this showdown is going to be hot garbage, guys. Don't play the showdown. That's like of the biggest fade of the weekend is do not play the showdown. You're spending a whole bunch of salaries for a game that's going to be fun to watch and not fun to own. And like I said, it can do crazy things. There's all sorts of superstars, and Ronaldo's still Ronaldo, and he may force he may force Man United to play. But yeah, that's basically my takes for the slate. Get the Lyon. You really want some Ajax. Fade the Man City. Get the Roma. Fade the Juventus Man United, and get the cheap Real Madrid when it's available. But yeah, that is basically it for the first of two mega shows today. So we got the Champions League taken care of now, and I'm going to stop the broadcast. I'm going to take a 10-minute break here, put out a whole new Twitter link and everything with the link for the next episode, which will be coming up here shortly, which will be on, of course, the NHL slate tonight, which I'm like maybe my favorite NHL slate of the entire season so far. I'll get that out of the way now. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Check back on the Twitter here, the RotoPros Twitter, rotopros.com, Rad, Rob Diamond, Sir Robert Six, and all the sites. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and best of luck this afternoon. And like I said, make sure to like, subscribe, but check the basic info for all of the timestamps for different games. That may not come to later today after I finish the NHL. I'll go back and redo them all. But yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in. Take care, everyone. Much love.